Hello snowboarders of the internet, I'm your host TC, and today we'll be reviewing the Nitro Fin Twin, aka the LYC, the Little Yellow Chub. This board is equipped with Nitro's cam out camber, meaning you have camber right in between your feet, and then pretty much right at that contact point it's going to rocker, and right at the tip here of the fin is where it's gonna go to rocker. There's not as much in the tail. So what that's gonna do is it's gonna help that tail drive power off it and that nose float and get in and out of turns. This board comes in the one size of a 149. I rode this board at Copper Mountain where we got 7 fresh inches of snow the night before. The runs were pretty good at first, they were nice and fresh, trees were amazing, where towards the end of the day it got really choppy just because a lot of Jerry's came out, pushed it all around. But for the most part, the sun stayed flat all day with a few flurries flying throughout. I used my Ride Fuse boots and my Jones Mercury bindings. When it comes to flex, this board is definitely going to be stiffer than the middle of the road. When it comes to the flex on the nose, it does feel a little bit softer, but I really wouldn't consider it much softer than the middle here. When you get to the tail or the fins, it's extremely stiff. It really matches the middle there. It's not going to provide any flex for you for buttering or anything like that. It is a little bit tougher to foot steer since it is a wider board, especially underneath your front foot here. It takes a little bit more. When you get into stability on that fresh snow, extremely stable, floats extremely well. When you get into those chunder, those pushed out piles towards the end of the runs, this thing kind of gets bounced around quite a bit. It doesn't do a great job of flexing over or around the moguls or chunder, where it kind of skips over. It almost feels like it has a mind of its own, where this nose just kind of wants to find the easiest path through. It feels kind of weird. It feels like you're olling a skateboard since you don't have much tail back here. It really doesn't provide that snap that you're looking for. So when you are olling, it's gonna be right off this back foot here. Really use that to drive all of your power since you do have that camber zone towards the back. It is stable on the landings and the takeoffs, but it's just lacks something to be desired just because of how short it is. And honestly, it's not made for that. It's made for hitting sweet turns on, not for going to the moon. Do you like these weird acronyms that I make up for the boards? Good. Why don't you subscribe, click that bell, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss any videos we have coming out. As you guessed it, when you're trying to butter on this tail, there is not a lot of real estate to work with. I found myself pretty much shifting all of my weight to the back, even over the end here, finding it would come up, but it was hard to find that sweet spot for me where the tails wouldn't give out and just pretty much launch me. Now when you get to the nose, it is a much different story where you can really sit on this sweet spot right on the contact points there. It almost creates like a spoon where it wants to flex right at that spot as well. And in that fresh snow, it just held. Like I could have just sat there all day doing a 180 switch butter and just went down the whole mountain on it. Now when you go to pop out on both sides, on the nose here, it will provide a little bit of pop for you so you don't have to do all that work. When you get to the tail, however, it doesn't pop quite that well just because there isn't that much real estate to work with. This board excels in 2 places when carving. It excels in that fresh powder and it excels on a nice clean groomer. Where when you're in the powder, you're wiggling through those trees, this thing steers extremely easy. This little tail becomes a tiny rudder for you and it just wiggles right through. When you get into that wide open fresh groomer, you can lay this thing down, hit a Euro carve on it. Even at high speeds, it still holds its edge extremely well. Now when you get into that chundery stuff and you're going for those medium or those larger carves, you end up getting bounced around, kind of stuck in a rut where it's pretty much just hold on at that point. Rider in mind. This board is for somebody that either has a quiver or is building a quiver. They want this thing just for those little niche days where you're gonna go rip some fresh trees or just lay it down on some fresh groomers. This isn't going to be their daily driver. They just want this one just for fun. Why don't you support us further by going over to Angry Snowboarder VIP? Sure, I could explain it here, but we have a great video over there getting into it really in depth. I have never surfed in my life, but I do watch World Surf League. And when you see those dudes on the short boards just ripping a turn on the top of a wave, that's how it feels on this board, or that's how I imagine it feels on this board. It's super fun to hit those tiny slashes and just pretty much white room yourself on it. I enjoyed it in that sense. When it came to just ripping groomers, not the greatest, but overall it felt right at home. It almost felt like my Cool Bean, just way plankier. Comparable boards: the Jones Stormwolf, the Amplid Spray Tray, and the Rossignol Sushi. Recommended bindings: the Nitro 1, the Jones Meteorite, and the Union Strata. This has been my review of the Nitro Fin Twin, aka the LYC. Did you enjoy it? Good. Why don't you go check out one of our videos for the comparable boards.